Nice try, but we both know you can't afford this seat. The words hit like a slap across gate C-14. Bethany Walsh held the boarding pass high, examining it with theatrical suspicion. Her lips curled into a smirk as she addressed the impeccably dressed black woman. The gate agent gripped both ends of the first-class ticket. Another deliberate tear. The papers split cleanly down the middle. Not satisfied, Bethany ripped it again into quarters. White confetti scattered across the polished floor. She ground the fragments under her heel, brushing her hands together. There, problem solved. Dr. Keisha Washington knelt gracefully, collecting each torn piece while 200 passengers watched in stunned silence. A teenager's phone captured every second. Have you ever watched someone's world completely flip upside down in less than 10 minutes? Because what happened next changed everything. Flight 447 departure. 47 minutes. The automated announcement echoed overhead as Keisha gathered the last fragments of her destroyed boarding pass. Her navy blazer remained pristine despite kneeling on the airport floor. She stood slowly, dignity intact. Bethany Walsh reached for her desk phone, speaking loud enough for nearby passengers to hear. Security to gate C-14. We have a passenger attempting to board with fraudulent documents. She gestured dramatically at the torn pieces still scattered near Keisha's feet. As you can see, I had to confiscate her fake boarding pass for everyone's safety. A college student named Tasha pulled out her phone, fingers flying across the screen. She'd been filming since the ticket destruction began. Her TikTok live stream showed 50 viewers, then 100, then 300. "Y'all, this is absolutely wild," Tasha whispered into her phone. "This airline employee just ripped up this woman's first-class ticket and called it fake." Gate supervisor Jennifer Hayes approached with arms crossed, her badge catching the fluorescent light. She positioned herself beside Bethany, creating a wall of authority. "Ma'am, we're going to need to see 3 forms of identification, your credit card statement, and proof of purchase for that ticket," Jennifer announced. Her voice carried the practiced tone of someone accustomed to being obeyed. Keisha reached into her designer handbag, movements deliberate and controlled. She withdrew a platinum American Express Centurion card, its metallic surface gleaming under the terminal lights. The invitation-only card required a $10,000 annual fee. "Will this suffice as proof of my financial capability?" Keisha's voice remained steady, professional. Bethany barely glanced at the card. Anyone can get a fake credit card these days. The live stream viewer count jumped to 800. Comments flooded the screen faster than Tasha could read them. Gate C-14 began trending in Chicago within minutes. Marcus Johnson, a well-dressed investment banker in line behind Keisha, shifted uncomfortably. He recognized her from Forbes magazine covers but stayed silent, phone recording discreetly. "Do you understand English?" Bethany spoke slower and louder, emphasizing each word. "We need real identification, not props." 2 airport security officers arrived, their presence immediately shifting the dynamic. They positioned themselves between Keisha and the gate entrance without asking questions. "What seems to be the problem here?" Officer Rodriguez asked, his hand resting casually on his radio. "This passenger attempted to board with fraudulent documents," Jennifer explained. "We've confiscated the fake ticket for investigation." Keisha's phone buzzed insistently. The caller ID showed corporate office, urgent, but she declined the call. 47 missed calls accumulated in her notification bar. Meanwhile, other passengers moved through the boarding process without additional scrutiny. A white businessman in wrinkled khakis presented his boarding pass and was waved through immediately. A teenage girl with a coach ticket received a friendly smile. "This is exactly why we have security protocols," Bethany announced to the growing crowd. "Some people think they can just waltz onto airplanes without proper documentation." Officer Rodriguez studied the situation, noting the torn paper scattered on the floor. "Ma'am, do you have your original ticket receipt?" "The original ticket was destroyed," Keisha replied calmly, gesturing to the fragments. "By your airline employee." She destroyed a fake ticket, Bethany interjected. There's a big difference. Tasha's live stream exploded to 3,000 viewers. The comments section became a digital battlefield of outrage and support. Airline discrimination joined #GateC14 in trending topics. Please keep recording, Keisha said quietly to Tasha. The world needs to witness this. Jennifer Hayes pulled out her radio. We need additional security at Gate C14. Possible trespassing situation. Keisha opened her wallet, revealing multiple VIP cards and executive credentials. Her airline frequent flyer card showed platinum elite status with over 2 million miles. Ma'am, you're disrupting operations, Officer Rodriguez said. We can help you reschedule in economy class, or you'll need to leave the premises. Airport manager Derek Brooks arrived at a brisk pace, his tie slightly askew. He surveyed the scene. Security officers, torn paper, phones recording, and a composed black woman at the center of it all. What's the situation? Derek asked Jennifer. Attempted fraud. We caught her trying to use a fake first-class ticket. Derek nodded without investigating further. Ma'am, you have two options. Accept rebooking and available seating or leave the airport. Continuing to argue will result in trespassing charges. Flight 447. Departure, 31 minutes. The countdown pressure intensified. Other passengers craned their necks to watch the unfolding drama. Some filmed openly while others whispered among themselves. Keisha's phone rang again. This time, the caller ID read CEO Morrison, personal. She glanced at the screen and declined. This is what happens when people try to game the system, Bethany announced to the crowd, her voice carrying false authority. They think they can intimidate us with lawyers and complaints. 3 more security officers arrived as backup. The circle around Keisha tightened. 6 uniformed personnel, 3 airline employees, dozens of recording devices, and 200 watching passengers. An elderly black gentleman stepped forward from the crowd. Sister, I got your back, he said quietly. 2 other black passengers stood in solidarity, but the majority remained seated, creating a visible divide in the gate area. Tasha's viewer count hit 12,000. Comments poured in from across the country, sharing similar stories of travel discrimination. Final boarding begins in 20 minutes, the gate announcement declared. Derek Brooks began writing an incident report on his tablet. I'm documenting this for corporate and potential law enforcement action. Keisha remained eerily calm, her composure unshakable despite being surrounded. She took photos of each employee's name tag and badge number with methodical precision. Are you getting all of this? She asked for Tasha's camera. Every single second, Tasha confirmed. Keisha's voice dropped to almost a whisper, but her words carried across the silent gate area. I think it's time we cleared up this misunderstanding. Flight 447. Departure, 31 minutes. Keisha's words hung in the air like a challenge. The gate area fell silent except for the hum of air conditioning and distant terminal announcements. Even the live stream comments paused momentarily. Then chaos erupted. Derek Brooks's radio crackled to life. Code yellow at gate C14. Repeat. Code yellow. His face drained of color as he listened to the voice on the other end. He glanced at Keisha with newfound uncertainty. What's code yellow? Tasha whispered to her phone. Her viewer count had exploded to 18,000. The chat moved so fast, individual comments blurred together. Bethany sensed the shift in energy but pressed forward, her voice rising defensively. I don't care what kind of lawyer she thinks she has. Rules are rules. She pointed at the scattered ticket fragments, now attracting attention from janitors who carefully swept around them. That was a fraudulent document. I protected this airline from financial loss. Officer Rodriguez spoke into his shoulder radio, requesting guidance from airport command. His partner positioned herself to maintain visual contact with all exits. Jennifer Hayes pulled Derek aside, whispering urgently. Their conversation involved frequent glances at Keisha, who stood perfectly still in the center of the growing crowd. Ladies and gentlemen, Flight 447 will experience a brief delay due to an administrative matter, the gate announcement declared. Passengers groaned. Business travelers checked their watches and pulled out phones to reschedule connections. The man in wrinkled khakis who'd boarded easily earlier now complained loudly about the inconvenience. Marcus Johnson finally stepped forward, his investment banker instincts overriding his desire to avoid confrontation. "Excuse me," he said to Derek Brooks. "I think there might be a significant misunderstanding here." Derek barely looked at him. "Sir, please return to your seat. This doesn't concern you." "Actually, it does." Marcus pulled out his phone, showing a Forbes article from 6 months earlier. "That's Dr. Keisha Washington. She's the COO of Meridian Capital Group." Bethany scoffed. "Anyone can Photoshop a magazine cover these days." But Derek Brooks's expression changed. He studied the article, then looked at Keisha with a growing alarm. "Flight 447 departure, 28 minutes. Keisha's phone rang again. This time, instead of declining, she answered. "Yes, I'm aware of the situation," she said calmly. "No, don't intervene yet. Let this play out." She ended the call and looked directly at Tasha's camera. "These are the real-life stories that Black women face every day while traveling. This isn't unusual. It's systemic." The live stream comments exploded with similar experiences. Passengers shared stories of additional screening, seat changes, and suspicious treatment. Black travel stories began trending alongside #Gate C14. 3 more airport security officers arrived, bringing the total to 6. A supervisor in a white shirt joined them, speaking quietly into his radio while observing the scene. "We may need to clear the gate area," the security supervisor announced. "Clear the gate?" an elderly passenger protested. "We have a flight to catch." The crowd's mood shifted from curious to irritated. Business travelers began demanding compensation for delays. Families with children gathered their belongings, preparing for possible relocation. Derek Brooks approached Keisha again, his earlier confidence replaced by visible nervousness. "Ma'am, I've been informed that there may have been a misunderstanding. If you could provide additional identification, we might be able to resolve this quickly." "Additional identification?" Keisha's eyebrows raised slightly. "For what purpose?" "To verify your status." The word hung in the air like an accusation. Status. Not identity, not ticket validity, but status. Tasha's live-stream viewer count hit 25,000. Major news outlets began picking up the story. CNN, NBC, and ABC all had social media teams monitoring the trending hashtags. Flight 447 departure, 25 minutes. Bethany Walsh, sensing the situation slipping from her control, made one final stand. "I don't care if she's the Queen of England," she announced loudly. "She presented a suspicious document, I followed protocol, and I'd do it again." The crowd's reaction was immediate and divided. Some passengers nodded in agreement, others shook their heads in disgust. The generational and racial lines became starkly visible. A young black flight attendant watched from the jet bridge, her face a mask of professional neutrality, despite the conflict raging in her eyes. Company policy required her silence, but her body language spoke volumes. "Ma'am, we need to resolve this now," Derek Brooks said to Keisha. "The flight is scheduled to depart in 25 minutes. "Then perhaps you should have thought about timing before destroying my valid boarding pass," Keisha replied. Her phone buzzed with a text message. She glanced at the screen and almost smiled. Almost. Officer Rodriguez received another radio call. This one was longer, involving multiple confirmations and spelled-out names. His partner watched his expression change from routine enforcement to something approaching concern. "Control, can you repeat that last part about Meridian Capital?" Rodriguez said into his radio. The words Meridian Capital rippled through the crowd like electricity. Several business passengers looked up from their phones with recognition. Jennifer Hayes overheard and immediately Googled the company name. Her face went pale as search results loaded. $12.7 billion in assets under management, she read aloud to Derek Brooks. Major shareholder in multiple airline companies, Derek continued reading over her shoulder. Bethany Walsh remained defiant. I don't care if she owns the moon. She had a fake ticket. But her voice carried less conviction now. The absolute certainty was cracking. Flight 447 departure, 22 minutes. Keisha's calm demeanor never wavered, but something subtle shifted. Her posture straightened imperceptibly. Her eyes focused with laser intensity. Mr. Brooks, she said, her voice carrying new authority. I'd like your full name and employee identification number for my report. Your report? The report I'll be filing with your corporate office, the Department of Transportation, and the Federal Aviation Administration regarding today's discrimination incident. Derek Brooks's hands shook slightly as he provided his information. The gravity of potential federal involvement was becoming clear. Tasha's phone was overheating from the continuous live stream, but she refused to stop recording. 28,000 viewers hung on every word. This is bigger than just a torn ticket, Keisha continued, addressing the camera directly. This represents systemic bias in the travel industry that affects millions of passengers who look like me. Her phone rang one final time. The caller ID simply read CEO. This time she answered immediately. Yes, I think it's time, she said into the phone. She ended the call and looked directly at Derek Brooks, then at Bethany Walsh, then at the 6 security officers surrounding her. Gentlemen, ladies, I believe there's been a catastrophic misunderstanding here. She reached into her handbag and withdrew a leather portfolio. From it, she extracted a single business card and handed it to Derek Brooks. His hands trembled as he read it aloud. Dr. Keisha Washington, Chief Operating Officer, Meridian Capital Group. But there was more text at the bottom of the card. Derek's voice caught as he read the final line. Board member, Transglobal Airlines. The silence that followed was deafening. Even the live stream comments stopped flowing. Bethany Walsh stared at the card, her earlier bravado evaporating like morning mist. Flight 447 departure, 18 minutes. Now then, Keisha said, her voice carrying quiet authority that could topple kingdoms. Shall we discuss what happens next? Flight 447. Departure, 18 minutes. The business card trembled in Derek Brooks's hands. He read it 3 times before the words registered fully. Board member, Transglobal Airlines, the very airline they all worked for. Bethany Walsh grabbed the card from him, studying it with the same intensity she'd used to examine Keisha's boarding pass. This could be fake, too, she said, but her voice lacked conviction. Shall I call the number to verify? Keisha asked, her tone suggesting she already knew the answer. Derek Brooks's radio erupted with urgent chatter. The airport command was receiving calls from corporate headquarters, something about an emergency board meeting and immediate operational changes. Tasha's live stream had reached 35,000 viewers. The comments section moved so fast it appeared as a blur of outrage, shock, and disbelief. Gate C-14 was now trending nationally. This has got to be the plot twist of the century, Tasha whispered to her phone. Officer Rodriguez received another radio call. This one was different, longer, more urgent. He looked at Keisha with new eyes as he listened to instructions from the airport command. Control is asking us to stand down, he said to his partner. Stand down? Officer Martinez questioned. What does that mean? Before Rodriguez could answer, Keisha reached into her portfolio again. This time she withdrew a phone, not her personal device, but a sleek corporate smartphone with multiple security features. Authorization required for operational override, she said, speaking into the device. A voice responded immediately. Authorization granted, Dr. Washington. Meridian 779 confirmed. Derek Brooks watched in growing horror as Keisha's fingers moved across the phone screen with practiced efficiency. She was accessing systems that few people in the aviation industry even knew existed. "What are you doing?" Jennifer Hayes demanded. "Implementing emergency protocols," Keisha replied calmly. Every computer screen at Gate C-14 flickered simultaneously. The boarding pass scanners emitted warning beeps. Flight information displays went dark for 3 seconds, then displayed a message that made Derek Brooks's blood run cold. Flight 447, administrative hold, executive override. Bethany frantically pressed keys on her terminal. Nothing responded. The system had locked her out completely. "My computer's down," she announced, panic creeping into her voice. "Mine too," Jennifer confirmed. Gates C-12, C-13, C-15, and C-16 experienced similar technical difficulties. Passengers throughout the terminal began complaining about delays and system failures. Flight 407 departure. Indefinite hold. Keisha pocketed her corporate phone and addressed the live stream directly. "For those recordings, my name is Dr. Keisha Washington. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of Meridian Capital Group, which owns a 34% controlling stake in Transglobal Airlines." The silence that followed was absolute. 35,000 live stream viewers, 200 gate passengers, airport staff across 3 terminals. Everyone is processing the same impossible reality. Marcus Johnson was the first to break the silence. "I tried to tell y'all," he said, shaking his head. "That's the woman who's been on the cover of Forbes 3 times this year." Bethany Walsh stared at her dead computer screen, then at the torn boarding pass fragments still scattered on the floor. The paper pieces suddenly looked like evidence at a crime scene. "But the ticket looked suspicious," she whispered. "No," Keisha corrected, holding up the fragments she'd collected. "I looked suspicious to you." "There's a significant difference." Derek Brooks's phone rang. The caller ID showed Corporate Emergency Line. His hands shook as he answered. "This is Derek Brooks at Gate C-14, he said. The voice on the other end was loud enough for nearby passengers to hear. "Mr. Brooks, this is Patricia Torres, station manager. I'm en route to your location. Do not take any further action regarding Dr. Washington without my direct approval." Derek's face went ashen. "Yes, ma'am." But Keisha wasn't finished. She withdrew another device from her portfolio, a tablet displaying real-time financial data. "Since we're discussing credentials," she said, turning the screen toward the crowd, "let me share some numbers with you." The tablet showed Meridian Capital's current holdings, $12.7 billion in assets under management. Transglobal Airlines represented their largest single investment at $2.3 billion. "Our corporate travel program generated $847 million in revenue for Transglobal last year," Keisha continued. "That's approximately 12% of the airline's total annual profits." Jennifer Hayes Googled frantically on her phone, cross-referencing the numbers. Every figure checked out. Tasha's viewer count hit 45,000. Major news networks were now monitoring the situation in real time. CNN had dispatched a crew to O'Hare Airport. Flight 447, departure, executive review. The crowd dynamics shifted dramatically. Passengers who had been sympathetic to airline staff now maintained careful distance. The 6 security officers stood awkwardly, unsure of their role in a situation that had evolved far beyond their training. Bethany Walsh made one desperate attempt to maintain control. "I was following company policy," she announced to anyone who would listen. "Suspicious documents require additional verification. I was protecting the airline from fraud." Keisha turned to face her directly. "Ms. Walsh, in your years of employment, how many first-class tickets have you torn up?" That's not relevant." "How many white passengers have you asked for 3 forms of identification?" Bethany's silence was answered enough. "How many boarding passes have you physically destroyed while claiming to protect the airline?" The live stream comments exploded with passengers sharing their own experiences. Stories of black travelers being subjected to additional screening, seat changes, and suspicious treatment flooded social media. Derek Brooks's radio crackled again. This time, the message was clear. All personnel at Gate C-14 are to remain in position pending executive review. Officer Rodriguez looked uncomfortable. Ma'am, we weren't aware of your position with the airline. That's precisely the point, Keisha replied. You made assumptions based on appearance rather than facts. She gestured to the torn ticket pieces still visible on the floor. This destroyed boarding pass represents more than discrimination against one passenger. It represents a corporate culture that needs immediate correction. Her corporate phone buzzed with an incoming call. The screen displayed CEO Morrison, urgent. This time, Keisha answered on speakerphone. David, she said, using the CEO's first name with familiar authority. Keisha, I just received an emergency briefing about the situation at O'Hare. Are you all right? I'm fine, David. But we have a significant problem that requires immediate attention. Whatever you need, legal is standing by, and I'm personally reviewing the incident reports. We'll discuss specifics on Monday's board call. For now, I need Ms. Torres at Gate C-14 with full authority to implement corrective measures. She's already en route. Keisha, I want you to know that this doesn't represent our company values. I understand that, David. Understand. But perception is reality, and right now, 45,000 people are watching this conversation live. The live stream viewer count was actually approaching 50,000, but Keisha's point was clear. Flight 447 departure. Corporate Response Station Manager Patricia Torres arrived at a near run, her professional composure barely concealing obvious panic. She surveyed the scene, disabled computers, scattered ticket fragments, recording devices, and Dr. Keisha Washington standing calmly in the center of it all. Dr. Washington, Patricia said, slightly out of breath, I offer my sincere apologies for this incident. Ms. Torres, I appreciate your response time. However, apologies to me aren't sufficient. These 48,000 viewers deserve to understand how this situation will be addressed. Patricia Torres looked directly at Tasha's camera. On behalf of Transglobal Airlines, I offer our deepest apology to Dr. Washington and our commitment to immediate systemic changes. But Keisha wasn't finished revealing the full scope of her authority. David, are you still on the line? Yes, Keisha. Please inform everyone present about the Meridian Transglobal Partnership Agreement, specifically Section 12B. There was a pause before the CEO responded. Section 12B allows Meridian Capital to terminate our partnership agreement immediately in cases of discrimination violations. This would result in the loss of approximately $2.3 billion in annual business. Bethany Walsh's knees buckled slightly. The magnitude of her actions was becoming clear. Derek Brooks stared at his incident report tablet, realizing he'd been documenting his own career termination. However, Keisha continued, I'm more interested in prevention than punishment, which brings us to the Washington Protocol. The Washington Protocol? Patricia Torres asked. A comprehensive anti-discrimination program we've been developing for the past 6 months. Real-time bias reporting, mandatory training, financial accountability measures, and technological solutions to prevent incidents like today. She looked directly at Bethany Walsh. Ms. Walsh, your actions today will serve as the case study for industry-wide changes. Every airline employee in America will learn about what happened at Gate C-14. The live stream comments were moving too fast to read, but the sentiment was clear. Justice was coming. Now then, Keisha said, gathering the torn ticket pieces from the floor, I believe my original request was quite simple. I'd like to board my flight. Patricia Torres practically sprinted to the gate counter, manually overriding every system necessary to process Keisha's boarding. Dr. Washington, Seat 1A is ready for immediate boarding. First-class service has been upgraded to our premium level. Keisha walked toward the jet bridge, then paused. Ms. Walsh, she said, turning back one final time. Bethany looked up hopefully. You were right about one thing. There was indeed a problem with my ticket. Bethany's face showed confusion. It should have been a complimentary upgrade to our executive suite. But don't worry, that mistake has been corrected. As Keisha disappeared down the jet bridge, the gate area erupted in a mixture of applause, nervous laughter, and the frantic clicking of keyboards as every employee tried to process what they'd just witnessed. Tasha ended her live stream with 52,000 viewers and a simple message: "Justice just walked onto that plane. Flight 447 departure, executive boarding." Keisha paused at the jet bridge entrance, her hand resting on the doorframe. The weight of 52,000 watching eyes pressed against her shoulders, but her voice remained steady. "Before I board this aircraft, I want to address something that affects every person of color who travels in America." She turned back to face the gate area, where Tasha continued recording despite her phone's overheating warnings. The live stream had become must-see television for news outlets across the nation. This isn't about me having enough money or influence to fight back. This is about the millions of black passengers who face discrimination without corporate leverage. Patricia Torres nodded respectfully, but her eyes darted nervously between Keisha and her buzzing phone. Corporate headquarters was clearly applying pressure for immediate resolution. "Dr. Washington," Patricia said carefully, "we're prepared to implement whatever changes you deem necessary." Keisha opened her corporate tablet, displaying a detailed presentation that appeared to have been prepared months in advance. The Washington Protocol consists of 5 mandatory components. Implementation begins immediately, not next quarter, not next month. Today. Component 1. Financial accountability. Effective immediately, Transglobal Airlines will pay $50,000 in automatic compensation for any verified discrimination incident. No negotiations, no legal proceedings, no appeals process. Derek Brooks's incident report tablet slipped from his hands, clattering on the floor. $50,000 per incident would bankrupt most operational budgets within weeks if discrimination wasn't eliminated immediately. Additionally, Keisha continued, all employee bonuses will be tied directly to diversity and inclusion metrics. Zero tolerance means zero bonus exceptions. Bethany Walsh realized her annual bonus had just evaporated along with her career prospects. Component 2. Real-time reporting technology. Keisha's tablet displayed a sleek mobile app interface. Every gate, every counter, every airline facility will feature QR codes linking to instant discrimination reporting. Passengers can file complaints directly with executive leadership in real time. The app showed features like photo evidence upload, witness contact information, and automatic legal documentation generation. Response time is mandatory within 15 minutes. Every report triggers immediate supervisor notification and requires written resolution within 24 hours. Patricia Torres was frantically taking notes, realizing the massive operational changes required. Component 3. Mandatory training protocol. Every Transglobal employee, from gate agents to executives, will complete monthly anti-bias training. Not annual, not quarterly, monthly. Jennifer Hayes shifted uncomfortably. Monthly training meant constant scrutiny of every interaction. Training includes real-world scenarios, implicit bias recognition, and cultural competency certification. Failure to complete training results in immediate suspension without pay. Keisha's presentation showed detailed curriculum modules covering microaggressions, systemic racism, and professional communication standards. Component 4. AI monitoring system. Artificial intelligence will monitor all gate interactions for bias indicators. Unusual verification requests, disproportionate screening, or discriminatory language will trigger automatic supervisor alerts. The technology seemed almost science fiction, but Keisha's matter-of-fact presentation suggested it was readily available. The system analyzes voice tone, conversation length, and treatment patterns across demographic groups. Statistical anomalies require immediate investigation. Officer Rodriguez whistled softly. Even airport security would be subject to algorithmic oversight. Component 5. Three-strike termination. Any employee documenting 3 bias incidents faces immediate termination with cause. No exceptions, no appeals, no second chances after the 3rd strike. Bethany Walsh realized she'd just accumulated her 1st, 2nd, and 3rd strikes simultaneously. Furthermore, Keisha continued, terminated employees will be placed on an industry-wide database preventing employment with any Meridian Capital partner airline. The scope of consequences was staggering. Meridian's partnerships extended across multiple airlines, effectively creating industry-wide accountability. The legal framework CEO David Morrison's voice crackled through the speakerphone, still connected from earlier. Keisha, our legal team has reviewed the protocol. Implementation can begin within 48 hours. 48 hours is unacceptable, David. Implementation begins now. Patricia Torres looked panicked. Dr. Washington, system-wide changes require coordination across multiple departments. Ms. Torres, we're not discussing preference. We're discussing contractual obligations under Section 12B of our partnership agreement. Keisha displayed the relevant contract language on her tablet. In the event of discrimination incidents involving protected classes, Meridian Capital reserves the right to implement immediate corrective measures with full operational authority. This clause was negotiated specifically for situations like today, Keisha explained to the live stream audience. Corporations respond to financial pressure more effectively than moral arguments. The ultimatum. Keisha's voice carried the quiet authority of someone accustomed to moving billions of dollars with simple decisions. Transglobal Airlines has exactly 5 minutes to publicly commit to full Washington Protocol implementation, or Meridian Capital begins divestiture proceedings Monday morning. The countdown was both literal and symbolic. Patricia Torres could practically hear the ticking clock. 5 minutes to choose between $2.3 billion in annual business or maintaining discriminatory practices. Derek Brooks's hands shook as he calculated the implications. Losing Meridian's business would result in massive layoffs, route cancellations, and potential bankruptcy proceedings. The public commitment. Patricia Torres stepped directly in front of Tasha's camera, her professional composure restored through sheer necessity. On behalf of Transglobal Airlines, I commit to immediate implementation of the Washington Protocol. Every component will be operational within 72 hours. But Keisha wasn't satisfied with vague promises. Ms. Torres, please be specific about the consequences for the employees involved in today's incident. Patricia Torres swallowed hard before responding. Ms. Bethany Walsh is terminated effective immediately. Her actions violated company policy and basic human decency. Bethany's supervisor badge was removed on camera, her access credentials deactivated in real time. Mr. Derek Brooks, your resignation has been accepted. You demonstrated poor judgment and failed to investigate before escalating. Derek quietly gathered his belongings, his 15-year airline career ending in live-streamed humiliation. Ms. Jennifer Hayes will serve 30 days unpaid suspension and complete mandatory bias training before reinstatement consideration. The broader impact. Keisha's corporate phone displayed incoming calls from airline executives across the industry. Word was spreading rapidly about the Washington Protocol and its potential adoption. Delta Airlines is requesting an emergency consultation, Patricia Torres reported after checking her messages. American Airlines wants to discuss preemptive implementation, David Morrison added from the speakerphone. United's CEO is en route to Chicago for immediate discussions, came another update. The livestream viewer count had reached 68,000. Hashtag Washington Protocol was trending globally alongside hashtag Gate C14 and hashtag Airline Reform, the personal reckoning. Keisha approached Bethany Walsh directly, speaking quietly enough that only nearby passengers could hear. Ms. Walsh, I want you to understand something important. Bethany looked up with desperate hope for mercy. Your assumptions about what I could afford weren't based on my clothes, my luggage, or my demeanor. They were based on my skin color. Bethany opened her mouth to protest, but Keisha continued. That unconscious bias cost your company millions of dollars and your colleagues their jobs. It damaged TransGlobal's reputation and traumatized passengers who witnessed your actions. Keisha held up the torn boarding pass fragments one final time. These paper pieces represent the cost of discrimination, not just to individuals but to entire organizations. She handed the fragments to Patricia Torres. Frame these in your corporate headquarters. Let them remind every employee that bias has consequences. The resolution. As Keisha finally walked toward the aircraft, her corporate phone buzzed with a text message she read aloud for the live stream. Stock price up 3.2% on news of discrimination protocol implementation. Investors approve of proactive bias prevention measures. She paused at the jet bridge one final time. To the 68,000 people watching this, remember, change happens when silence becomes more expensive than action. Patricia Torres personally escorted Keisha onto the aircraft, where the flight crew offered champagne and profuse apologies. Behind them, Gate C-14 buzzed with activity as corporate executives arrived to manage the aftermath of the most expensive discrimination incident in aviation history. Tasha ended her live stream with a simple message. This is how you change the world, one boarding pass at a time. The live stream final count, 71,000 viewers across 6 hours of continuous coverage. The story was just beginning. Flight 447, premium service activated. Inside the aircraft, Keisha settled into seat 1A as flight attendant Maria Rodriguez approached with genuine warmth, not the manufactured courtesy of damage control. Dr. Washington, it's truly an honor to serve you today. Your meal has been upgraded to our chef's special selection. Through the window, Keisha watched ground crews working frantically. 3 news vans had arrived at the terminal. CNN, NBC, and local Chicago stations were setting up cameras for live broadcasts. Her corporate phone displayed messages from airline executives worldwide. The Washington Protocol had become the aviation industry's most urgent topic within hours. Immediate systemic changes. Patricia Torres coordinated with corporate headquarters via emergency video conference. The implementation timeline was aggressive, but non-negotiable. QR codes will be installed at every gate by midnight, she reported to the arriving executives. The bias reporting app goes live at 6 a.m. tomorrow. IT departments across TransGlobal's network scrambled to deploy new systems. The AI monitoring technology, previously in development, received unlimited funding for immediate activation. Employee training modules are being rushed through final approval, the corporate communications director announced. First mandatory sessions begin Monday morning. The ripple effect accelerates. Delta Airlines issued a press release within 2 hours. Preemptive adoption of enhanced discrimination prevention measures. They'd contacted Meridian Capital requesting immediate consultation. American Airlines followed 30 minutes later with similar announcements. United's CEO personally called David Morrison seeking partnership discussions. The entire aviation industry was racing to avoid becoming the next viral discrimination story. Southwest Airlines stock dropped 1.8% on investor concerns about their lack of comparable protocols. JetBlue announced an emergency board meeting to discuss proactive bias prevention strategies. Personal accountability measures. Bethany Walsh cleared out her desk while security officers supervised. 15 years of airline experience ended with a cardboard box and an industry blacklist that would prevent future aviation employment. Her final paycheck included termination for cause, eliminating severance benefits. The incident report would follow her to any background check for years. Derek Brooks submitted his resignation letter via email, unable to face colleagues after the live-streamed humiliation. His management career in aviation was effectively over. Jennifer Hayes began her 30-day unpaid suspension with mandatory counseling sessions. Her return to work would depend on completing intensive bias training and psychological evaluation. Financial consequences. TransGlobal's stock price climbed 4.7% by market close. Investors appreciated proactive discrimination prevention as both ethical and financially prudent. Discrimination lawsuits cost airlines an average of $2.3 million annually. Financial analyst Rebecca Martinez explained on CNBC, "The Washington Protocol represents insurance against massive legal exposure." Meridian Capital's other investments also benefited from the positive publicity. The firm's reputation for social responsibility attracted new clients within hours. Technology implementation. The bias reporting app completed beta testing in record time. Early screenshots showed intuitive design, photo upload, witness information, automatic timestamping, and direct executive notification. Response time averaging 12 minutes during initial testing, the development team reported. Executive escalation protocols are functioning perfectly. AI monitoring systems began installation at major hubs. The technology could analyze conversation patterns, voice stress indicators, and treatment disparities across demographic groups. Statistical analysis will identify bias trends before they become viral incidents, explained Dr. James Brooks, the system's architect. Industry transformation. The Federal Aviation Administration announced new discrimination reporting requirements for all commercial airlines. The Washington Protocol became the unofficial industry standard overnight. Dr. Washington's experience highlights systemic issues we can no longer ignore, FAA Administrator Sandra Lopez stated during an emergency press conference. The Department of Transportation opened investigations into discrimination complaints at 12 major airlines. Previous incidents, once dismissed or settled quietly, received renewed scrutiny. Educational impact. Harvard Business School requested permission to develop a case study around the Gate C-14 incident. Columbia University's journalism program assigned students to analyze the social media response. This represents a masterclass in corporate accountability, Professor Michael Rodriguez explained. Individual actions creating systemic change through strategic pressure. The incident became required reading for airline management training programs nationwide. The memorial framework. Patricia Torres personally oversaw the framing of Keisha's torn boarding pass. The display would occupy a prominent position in TransGlobal's corporate lobby. The accompanying plaque read, "Discrimination tears us apart. Inclusion makes us whole. The Washington Protocol, 2025. Employee orientation now included mandatory viewing of the Gate C-14 live stream footage. New hires learned exactly how bias could destroy careers and companies. Global recognition. International aviation authorities began adopting similar protocols. European Union regulators requested consultation on implementing bias prevention measures. The International Air Transport Association invited Keisha to keynote their annual conference on systemic change in aviation customer service. Personal victory. As Flight 447 reached cruising altitude, Keisha opened her laptop to review partnership proposals from airlines worldwide. The discrimination incident had transformed into unprecedented business opportunities. Her assistant's email contained meeting requests from CEOs across the aviation industry. The Washington Protocol was becoming Meridian Capital's most valuable intellectual property. She raised her champagne glass in a private toast to the power of strategic patience and systematic change. 6 hours later, Flight 447 landed in Atlanta to news crews and passenger interviews. The story had evolved from individual discrimination to industry-wide transformation. Keisha's final statement to reporters was characteristically measured. Today proves that silence in the face of bias becomes complicity. Change requires courage, strategy, and sustained pressure. The touching stories emerging from Gate C-14 would inspire countless other Black voices to speak up, knowing that sometimes one person's quiet power can transform entire industries. 3 months later, Gate C-14 at O'Hare International Airport looked remarkably different. A permanent diversity and inclusion display occupied the wall where passengers once witnessed discrimination. The QR code for bias reporting gleamed prominently beside every gate agent station. Bethany Walsh now worked retail at a suburban mall. Her airline career permanently ended. Industry background checks flagged her termination for discrimination, closing doors across aviation. The viral video followed her to every job interview. Derek Brooks relocated to Portland, taking a customer service position at a tech startup. His LinkedIn profile carefully omitted his final months at Transglobal Airlines, but the internet never forgets. Jennifer Hayes returned to work after completing intensive bias training and psychological evaluation. Her colleagues treated her with careful professionalism, but the atmosphere never fully recovered. The Washington Protocol success discrimination incidents across participating airlines dropped 89% within 90 days. The combination of financial consequences, AI monitoring, and real-time reporting created unprecedented accountability. We've processed over 12,000 bias reports through the app, Patricia Torres announced during a corporate presentation. Average response time, 8 minutes. Resolution rate, 94%. The framed boarding pass fragments in Transglobal's lobby became a pilgrimage site for employees and visitors. The memorial reminded everyone that individual actions create lasting consequences. Industry transformation. 12 major airlines adopted modified versions of the Washington Protocol. The Federal Aviation Administration made bias training mandatory for all customer-facing personnel. Dr. Keisha Washington established a $5 million scholarship fund supporting Black students pursuing aviation careers. Applications poured in from aspiring pilots, air traffic controllers, and aerospace engineers. Her keynote addresses at industry conferences drew standing ovations and immediate policy changes. The quiet power she demonstrated at Gate C14 resonated across corporate boardrooms worldwide. Social legacy Nanstart Gates 14 evolved into a movement supporting travelers facing discrimination. Passengers shared real-life stories of bias, creating solidarity across racial and ethnic lines. The hashtag #HadWashingtonProtocol became synonymous with corporate accountability and systemic change. Business schools taught courses analyzing how individual courage could transform entire industries. Personal growth. Meridian Capital's reputation for social responsibility attracted $2.8 billion in new investments. Clients specifically requested portfolio companies with strong diversity and inclusion records. Keisha's LinkedIn followers grew from 50,000 to 2.3 million. Her posts about bias prevention and corporate accountability regularly reached millions of professionals worldwide. Final wisdom. 6 months after Gate C14, Keisha reflected on the incident during a Harvard Business School guest lecture. Power isn't about wealth or corporate titles. It's about using your influence to create lasting change that protects people who might not have your resources. She held up a replica of her torn boarding pass. Sometimes the most powerful response to ignorance isn't anger or confrontation. It's strategic action that ensures systematic change. Call to action. These Black stories matter because they illuminate systemic problems requiring collective solutions. Life stories like Keisha's prove that individual courage can create industry-wide transformation. Have you witnessed discrimination while traveling? Share your touching stories in the comments below. Your voice matters, and together we can continue pushing for equality and justice. Subscribe to Black Voices Uncut for more real-life stories of quiet power overcoming systemic bias. Hit the notification bell because these narratives need amplification. Remember, you never know who you're really talking to. Treat everyone with dignity and respect, because the person you underestimate today might be the one who changes everything tomorrow. Share this video if you believe in the power of strategic action over silent acceptance. Change happens when ordinary people refuse to accept extraordinary injustice.
The story you heard today wasn't cleaned up. It was told exactly as it happened. At Black Voices Uncut, we believe that's the only way truth can live. If you felt something, hit like, comment, and your reaction, and subscribe. Every week, we bring you voices that refuse to be silenced.
Andrew gave away his last $5 to save a kid's life. 24 hours later, a billionaire offered him $8 million. But there was a catch. The man standing in front of Andrew's homeless tent wasn't just any billionaire. His hands were shaking. His voice broke when he spoke. 25 years ago, I slept right there. He pointed at the concrete pillar. A stranger gave me $20. One sentence, it changed everything. Andrew's chest tightened. Yesterday, you saved my son, same spot. You gave him $5. The billionaire's eyes locked onto his. And you said something. The exact words that stranger told me, word for word. He pulled out a contract. I've searched for that man my whole life. Never found him. His hand trembled as he held out the paper. But yesterday, when my son repeated what you said, I realized something. This wasn't about gratitude. It was about a debt 25 years old. Andrew Davis woke at 5 in the morning. Not because he wanted to, because 3 years on the streets had rewired his body. Sleep light, wake early, stay alert. He folded his blanket into a tight square. Military corners. His father taught him that 40 years ago. Some habits die hard. Some habits keep you human when everything else tries to strip that away. The underpass was quiet. 12 people lived here. 12 tents in a row under the highway. Cars roared overhead every few seconds. After a while, you stopped hearing them. Andrew walked to the public water fountain 3 blocks east, washed his face. The water was ice cold. October in the city meant mornings that bit. He didn't mind. Cold meant awake. Awake meant alive. Walter's tent sat next to his. The old man was already up. 68 years old, white beard down to his chest. Former high school English teacher. Walter had been here 15 years. Andrew only 3. Morning, Walter said. His voice was rough. Too many winters breathing car exhaust. Morning? Coffee? If you're buying. Walter smiled. They both knew neither of them was buying. The joke was tradition. Andrew had been someone once, a carpenter, a good one. He'd built kitchen cabinets that people showed off to their friends, custom bookshelves, a dining table for a mayor's house. Then 2008 hit. The economy collapsed. Construction stopped. His shop died. His marriage died 6 months after that. The house went to the bank. His daughter stopped returning his calls. 3 years ago, he'd walked into this underpass with a backpack and a sleeping bag. He thought it would be temporary. Temporary became permanent faster than he expected. But he'd found something here. Community. Strange word for a place like this. But that's what it was. People looked out for each other, shared food, kept each other warm, kept each other sane. Yesterday afternoon, Andrew had been collecting cans. Aluminum paid 5 cents a pound. It wasn't much. But much was relative when you had nothing. He'd filled half a garbage bag when he heard it. A voice, young, scared. Please, just take it, don't hurt me. Andrew's body moved before his brain caught up. He dropped the bag, followed the voice into the darker section of the underpass, the part people avoided. 3 young men had a boy cornered, maybe 10 years old, collared shirt, nice shoes, the kind of kid who didn't belong in this neighborhood. One of them grabbed the boy's phone, another shoved him against the concrete wall. What else you got, rich boy? Andrew stepped forward. Let him go. All 3 turned. They were young, early 20s, the kind of desperate that made people dangerous. The tallest one laughed. Old man, walk away. This isn't your business. It is now. Andrew's voice was calm, flat. He'd learned something living here. Fear was a smell. If you didn't show it, sometimes predators moved on to easier prey. You want to be a hero? The tall one pulled a knife, 4 inches, serrated edge. Heroes get hurt. Andrew didn't move, didn't blink, just looked at him, through him. The silence stretched. 5 seconds, 10. The young man's hand wavered. It's not worth it, Andrew said quietly. Whatever you think you're getting from him, it's not worth what comes after. Something in his tone made them hesitate. Maybe they saw something in his eyes. Maybe they just realized this wasn't going to be easy. The tall one spat on the ground. Whatever. Kid's not worth it anyway. They walked away, fast, like they were trying to save face. Andrew waited until they disappeared. Then he turned to the boy. "You hurt?" The boy shook his head, but his hands were shaking. His shirt was torn at the collar. Tears streaked his face. "What's your name?" "Ethan." The voice was barely a whisper. "Okay, Ethan, let's get you out of here." Andrew led him back to the main street, 3 blocks. The boy didn't say anything, just walked beside him, kept looking back like the young men might return. At the corner, Andrew pulled out his phone, ancient flip phone, prepaid. He dialed a taxi company. "Where do you live?" he asked Ethan. The boy gave an address. North Side, expensive neighborhood, 20 minutes away. When the taxi arrived, Andrew opened the door. Then he reached into his pocket. $5. Everything he had. He'd been saving it for dinner. He pressed it into Ethan's hand. "Go home. Your parents are probably worried sick." Andrew paused. "And remember something. When you can, help someone else, okay?" Ethan looked at the $5 bill, then at Andrew. His eyes were wide. "You're giving this to me? You'll need it more than I do today. What's your name?" "Andrew. Now go. Be safe." The taxi pulled away. Andrew watched until it turned the corner. Then he walked back to the underpass. His stomach growled. Dinner would have to wait. That night, Walter asked about it. News traveled fast in their community. Someone had seen Andrew with the boy. "Kid okay?" Walter stirred instant coffee in a styrofoam cup. "He's fine. Scared, but fine." "His parents rich?" Andrew shrugged. "Don't know. Doesn't matter." "Might matter," Walter said. "Rich people sometimes want to say thank you, with money." Andrew laughed. "I'm not holding my breath." But the next morning, everything changed. Andrew stepped out of his tent at dawn, stretched, the usual ache in his lower back. Then he saw it. A black sedan, brand new, parked at the entrance to the underpass, 30 feet away. A man stood beside it, expensive suit, gray at the temples, maybe late 40s. But the man wasn't walking toward the tents. He was just standing there, looking. His eyes moved slowly across the concrete pillars, the graffiti, the stained walls. His expression was strange. Not disgust, not pity. Something else. Memory. Walter came up beside Andrew, whispered. "Who's that?" "No idea." "Think he's here for you? About the kid?" Andrew didn't answer, because the man had finally turned, and he was walking toward them, slow, deliberate. His hands were shaking. The man stopped 10 feet away. Custom suit, expensive watch, red eyes like he'd been crying. "Mr. Davis?" His voice was quiet but steady. Andrew nodded. "That's me. Richard Sterling." They shook hands, firm grip, professional, but his palm was damp. "My son told me what you did yesterday." Andrew relaxed slightly. "Ethan, he's okay?" "He's fine, because of you." Sterling paused. His eyes drifted past Andrew to the concrete pillar behind the tent. He stared at it, long. His expression changed, something like recognition. "How long have you lived here?" Sterling asked. 3 years. 3 years. Sterling walked toward the pillar, touched it. "I lived here once." Andrew blinked. "Here?" "Right here, this underpass." Sterling's hand pressed against the concrete. "I slept against this pillar for 6 weeks, 25 years ago." Walter had moved closer, standing behind Andrew now, listening carefully. "I was 19, Sterling continued, his voice distant. "Ran away from home. Stupid kid. Thought I knew everything. Had $50. It lasted 3 days." He pointed at the pillar. "I slept here. August. No food. People walked past like I was invisible." Andrew knew that feeling. Everyone here did. "One night, 3 men jumped me." Sterling pointed to the darker section, the same place Andrew had found Ethan. "They wanted my shoes. That's all I had worth anything. One pulled a knife, cut me here." He touched his side. "I thought I was dying, 19 years old. Over sneakers." The underpass went silent. Then someone stepped out. An old man, maybe 70, gray beard, very thin. He didn't yell, just stood there and said calmly, "Leave him alone. He's just a kid." Walter's breathing changed. Sharp, quick. They laughed at first, but something about the old man made them nervous. "They left," Sterling's voice cracked. "He helped me up, checked my cut. Then he reached into his pocket, pulled out a $20 bill. I could tell it was everything he had." Andrew's throat tightened. "He gave it to me. Said, Get yourself some food. Find shelter. But remember something. When you can, help someone else. The words hit like a physical blow. Sterling pulled out his phone, showed Andrew a photo. Ethan at home, safe, smiling. Yesterday my son told me what happened, what you did, what you said to him. Andrew's heart was racing now. He remembered every word. When you can, help someone else. Same phrase, same spot where I was saved, 25 years later. That's just coincidence, Andrew said weakly. Is it? Sterling's voice was intense now. I spent 25 years looking for that old man. Searched every shelter in the city, came back here dozens of times, asked everyone, never found him. His voice broke completely. I wanted to thank him, show him I made it, that his $20 worked, that everything he believed about me was right. He steadied himself. That money bought me a meal. First food in 4 days. I sat in a diner for 3 hours. The owner noticed me, offered me a dishwashing job, minimum wage, cash under the table. I took it. Sterling looked at the sky. From there, I worked every shift they gave me, saved everything. Got into community college on a scholarship, transferred to state university, then business school. He turned back to Andrew. Built my first company at 28, sold it for $8 million at 32, started Sterling Technologies at 35. 1,200 employees now, government contracts, international clients. Andrew had heard of Sterling Technologies, big name, big money. But I never forgot that $20. Never forgot what he told me. Sterling's eyes were locked on the pillar. Every year on August 15th, the day he saved me, I come back here, walk around, look at faces. Hope maybe I'll recognize him. 25 years of coming back. Never found him. Maybe he's still out here somewhere, Andrew offered. Sterling shook his head slowly. He'd be 95 now, if he survived this long living on the streets. He didn't finish the thought. Didn't need to. Everyone here knew the statistics, knew how long people lasted. I accepted years ago that I'd never find him, that I'd never get to say thank you, never show him what his kindness created. Sterling stepped closer to Andrew. His eyes were sharp, focused. But yesterday, when my son came home and told me what you said, those exact words, in this exact spot, I realized something. Andrew waited. Maybe I wasn't supposed to find that old man. Maybe the universe works differently. Maybe I was supposed to find you. I don't understand what you're asking me. I'm not asking anything, not yet. Sterling pulled out a business card, thick paper, embossed lettering. He placed it carefully on the cardboard box beside Andrew's tent. I need 3 days. 3 days to put something together. Something real. Not charity, not a handout. Something that would honor what that man did for me. What you did for my son. What are you talking about? Sterling looked around at the underpass. At Walter standing behind Andrew. At Tommy and Maria and Sam watching from their tents. At all of them. I'm talking about paying forward a debt I can never pay back. I'm talking about doing something the right way. The way he would have wanted. Sterling started walking toward his car. 3 days. I'll come back with a proposal. Something I think you're going to want to hear. He opened the car door, paused, looked back one more time. That old man gave me a chance when I had absolutely nothing. When everyone else looked through me like I was invisible. You gave my son safety when you had nothing. When you could have walked away. His voice was firm now, clear. I can't repay that man. But I can do something for you, something bigger than both of us. Something that keeps his kindness alive. The black sedan pulled away. Smooth, silent, gone. Andrew stood there. The business card felt heavy in his hand. His mind was spinning with questions. Walter moved up beside him, close. His hand touched Andrew's shoulder. His voice was barely above a whisper, shaking. That story he just told us, about the old man who saved him. Andrew turned to look at him. What about it? Walter's eyes were filled with tears. His hands were trembling. He looked at the concrete pillar. At the exact spot Sterling had pointed to, where he'd slept 25 years ago. Andrew, Walter said quietly. I was that old man. 3 days felt like 3 weeks. Andrew couldn't stop thinking about it, about Sterling's story, about Walter's confession, about how a circle had closed after 25 years. Walter had told him everything that first night, the teaching career at Lincoln High, his wife Sarah dying of cancer, The drinking that followed, losing his job at 53, the house foreclosed, 15 years on these streets, and that August night when he gave his last $20 to a scared kid. "Never told anyone," Walter had said. "What's the point? Just one kid." But that kid remembered everything. The morning of day 3 arrived cold and gray. Andrew woke at 4:30, couldn't sleep. His mind kept spinning with questions and fears. He walked to the public fountain 3 blocks east, washed his face in freezing water, tried to think clearly. When he returned, the black sedan was already parked at the underpass entrance. Sterling stood beside it, holding a leather briefcase. Professional. Expensive. Ready for business. "Mr. Davis, can we talk?" Andrew gestured at his tent. "This is as private as it gets." Sterling set the briefcase on the cardboard box, opened it carefully, pulled out folders, a laptop, architectural drawings rolled tight. "What is this?" "Second Chance Workshop." Sterling unrolled the first drawing. The blueprint showed a large industrial building. High ceilings, open floor, multiple workstations, equipment everywhere, tool storage, classrooms in back, break room, offices. "Vocational training center," Sterling explained. "Carpentry, electrical, plumbing, welding, real certifications that lead to real jobs." Andrew studied the professional plans. "This looks expensive. $2 million startup, $1 million yearly operating costs." Sterling said it calmly. "I can fund that. What I need is expertise. Hire professional teachers. I have teachers. Certified electrician, licensed plumber, welding instructor." Sterling tapped the carpentry section. "But this needs someone who knows the trade, who lived it, who understands these people." Andrew's stomach dropped. "You want me to teach?" "No, I want you to build the program, design curriculum, choose equipment, hire instructors, run everything." "I'm not qualified." "You're the only one qualified." Sterling pulled out more documents. "I can hire people with degrees. They'll build something pretty that fails. You know what actually works. Nobody takes homeless people seriously. They will when they see results." Sterling opened the laptop, showed spreadsheets, numbers, projections. "This isn't charity business model. We train people free. They get jobs. Pay back 10% first-year salary. That funds next class. Sustainable." The math worked. Andrew could see it. "My proposal." Sterling handed him a contract. Multiple pages. Official. "You become co-founder, 30% ownership, equal decision authority on carpentry and trainee welfare, salary $60,000 annually." Andrew's brain stopped. $60,000? Below market for program director, but fair start. Year 2, we renegotiate based on results. I have no money to invest. You invest expertise, experience, credibility. Sterling leaned forward. "If I tell homeless people trust me, they laugh. But you tell them you got out, they listen. That's worth more than money." Andrew's hands shook slightly. "Why not Walter? He saved you." "Walter's 70. I need someone for 10 years minimum." Sterling's voice softened. "But Walter gets a role, important role." "What role?" "Chief Community Advisor, 25,000 yearly, connects with people, builds trust, mentors graduates. He's the bridge." Andrew looked at the contract, his name typed at the top. "This is real? Building secured, 5-year lease. Contractors start Monday." Sterling's eyes were intense. "Doing this with or without you, better with you. What's the catch? You need an apartment, professional clothes, stable address." Sterling pulled out keys. "Not for appearances, for trainees. They need to see the path works." "You want me to leave here?" "I want you to move forward." Sterling held up the keys. "Furnished apartment, 6 months paid, 3 blocks from workshop, 10 blocks from here." Andrew looked at his tent, at Walter's beside it. 3 years of community. "You'll visit often? Recruiting? Building relationships?" Sterling stood. "But you can't live both worlds. You're the bridge. The proof it works." Andrew stared at the papers, his future in blueprints and numbers. "I need time to think." "Take it. But answer by Friday noon. Contractors start Monday." Sterling packed everything except the keys. 25 years ago, someone gave me $20 in hope. I'm offering you the chance to give that to thousands. Not one kid. Thousands." The sedan pulled away smooth and silent. Andrew sat there holding keys that felt impossibly heavy. Walter emerged from his tent. He'd heard everything. Looked at the keys, at Andrew's face. "He made an offer." Andrew nodded. "Good one. Too good. I don't understand it." Walter sat slowly. His knees creaked. "Guilt is powerful. He searched 25 years for me. Never found me. You're his second chance to pay the debt. But leaving means leaving you, leaving everyone here. Walter was quiet a long time, then spoke carefully. What are you really afraid of? Failing, letting everyone down. No, Walter's voice cut sharp. You're afraid of succeeding, afraid of leaving this safe corner where nobody expects anything anymore. The words stung because they were true. Walter stood slowly. Think about it. But remember Ethan, one kid yesterday. Now imagine doing that for 100 people, 1,000. He walked back to his tent without looking back. Andrew sat there as morning became afternoon. The keys sat on the cardboard box, challenging him. Tommy stopped by around noon. Young guy, 32, been here 8 months. Yo, man, you taking that? You should totally take it. This is huge. Maria came next, 55, cautious by nature, been here 5 years. Just be careful. Rich people always want something eventually. Always. Even Sam shuffled over, 63, the quiet one. Been here longest of anyone, 12 years. He just shook his head. You leave, you don't come back. That's how it always goes. Seen it before. That night, Andrew lay in his tent staring at the fabric ceiling. Couldn't sleep. The keys sat on his sleeping bag, mocking him, daring him, testing him. Walter's words kept playing in his head. Afraid of leaving this safe corner. Was that what he was doing? Actually hiding here? Using community and loyalty as an excuse not to risk anything real? He thought about Ethan's terrified face, about pressing $5 into small hands, about 7 words that apparently meant everything to that kid. What if he could multiply that? Scale it up, turn one moment into a movement. What if Walter was absolutely right about everything? Friday morning arrived cold and clear. Andrew made his decision. Picked up his phone with shaking hands, dialed Sterling's number. I'll do it, but I have conditions. I'm listening. Sterling's voice was steady. Walter gets that advisor position. Full salary, full benefits, non-negotiable. Agreed. First location has to be this neighborhood, right here, where people living here can actually walk to it. Already planned exactly that way. And I get full veto power on trainee decisions. If something doesn't serve them, I kill it. No arguments. Long silence. Andrew held his breath. That's asking for significant power, Sterling said slowly. That's my condition for saying yes. More silence. 5 seconds. 10. Deal, Sterling said finally. When can you start? Andrew looked at his tent one last time. At 3 years of barely surviving, at a life built from nothing. Monday morning, he said. Walter had been standing outside listening to everything. When Andrew hung up, the old man smiled wide, genuine, proud. I'm proud of you, kid. Andrew's throat was tight, hard to speak. I'm absolutely terrified. Good, Walter said firmly. That means it actually matters. If you weren't scared, it wouldn't be worth doing. Andrew packed that afternoon. Didn't have much. 3 years of life fit in 2 garbage bags. Clothes, the sleeping bag, his father's pocket watch, a few books, some tools he'd kept. The apartment was small but clean, furnished, real bed, working kitchen, hot water. Andrew stood in the shower for 20 minutes. First hot shower in 3 years. He cried and didn't know why. Sunday night he couldn't sleep in the real bed, too soft, too quiet. He lay on the floor with his sleeping bag. That felt right. Monday morning at 7, Andrew stood outside the workshop building. Sterling was already there. Contractor trucks lined the street. Ready? Sterling asked. Andrew looked at the building, at his future. Ready, he said. They walked in together. Monday morning felt surreal. Andrew stood outside the workshop building at 7:30, 3 blocks from his new apartment, 10 blocks from the underpass, the apartment. He'd moved in Sunday afternoon, 20 minutes. Everything fit in 2 garbage bags. The apartment was small, studio, real bed, kitchen, hot water. He'd stood in the shower half an hour. First hot shower in 3 years, he'd cried. Sunday night, he couldn't sleep in the bed. Too soft. He'd pulled the sleeping bag onto the floor. That felt right. Now he stood looking at the building. Large, industrial. Contractor trucks lined the street. Men in hard hats unloading equipment. Sterling's car pulled up. Ready? Andrew nodded. They walked in together. Massive space. Empty, Concrete floors, high ceilings. Sterling introduced him to the contractor, the architect, people whose names Andrew forgot. They called him co-founder. He felt like an imposter. "Carpentry section first," the contractor said. 4 weeks. 4 weeks to design curriculum, choose equipment, figure out what he was doing. That afternoon, he went back to the underpass. Needed to see Walter. The sedan dropping him off caused stares. He walked to his old spot. The tent still there, empty now. Strange seeing it from outside. Walter was reading, looked up, studied Andrew. "You look different." Andrew looked down. Clean clothes Sterling bought, jeans, button down, new boots. "Feel different." "Good different?" "Scared different." Walter set the book down. "Sit. Tell me." Andrew sat on the concrete. Familiar, grounding. He told Walter everything. The building, the plans, how Sterling wanted Walter as chief community advisor starting next month. Walter listened. When Andrew finished, he was quiet. "You're really doing this. I'm really doing this. And you want me there. I need you there. You're the bridge. People trust you." Walter's eyes were wet. $25,000 a year? Plus benefits, health insurance, dental. Walter laughed, short, shocked. "I haven't had insurance in 15 years. You will now." Silence. Then Walter said quietly, "People are going to be angry." "What people?" "Here, some of them. They'll think you sold out." Andrew's chest tightened. "I'm not abandoning anyone." "I know, but jealousy is powerful and so is fear." "Fear of what?" "Of being left behind." Tommy walked over. 32, usually friendly, but his face was hard now. "So it's true. You took the rich guy's money." Andrew stood. "It's not like that." "What's it like then?" Tommy's voice was sharp. "You got an apartment, new clothes, playing businessman while we're still here." "Tommy, listen. No. We had your back 3 years. Shared food. Now you're gone. I'm right here. For how long? Then you'll forget us. They always do." Maria walked over. 55. Been here 5 years. Always kind. But her face was closed now. "Tommy's right. You don't belong here anymore." "That's not fair. I'm doing this to help people." "For who?" Maria asked. "For us? Or for people you haven't met yet?" The words cut deep. More people gathered. Sam, Linda, Jorge. Faces Andrew had seen every day. Some looked angry, some hurt, some tired. "You think you're better than us now?" Sam asked. "Been here 12 years? Got your fancy apartment, your salary, your partnership. I never said that. You don't have to. We can see it." Sam gestured at Andrew's clothes. "You don't smell like us anymore. Don't look like us." Andrew looked at Walter. Sad, but not surprised. "Listen," Andrew tried. "The workshop will train people for real jobs, free training, real certifications." "Us?" Tommy laughed, bitter. "You just said us like you're still one of us. You're not. You're one of them now. That's not true." "Prove it. Sleep here tonight, in your tent." Andrew hesitated. Just a second, but that second was enough. "See?" Tommy said. "You can't, because you've got a nice apartment waiting. You've already left. I have to live there for the program." "The trainees?" Maria interrupted. "What about us? We're right here, and you're already talking about other people." Andrew felt trapped. "I'm trying to do something good. For yourself," Sam said quietly. "And that's fine, but don't pretend it's for us." Andrew looked around, saw the hurt, the anger, the jealousy, the fear. He wanted to argue, to explain. But part of what they said was true. He was leaving, moving into a different world. Walter finally spoke. Everyone calm down. Andrew's doing what he needs to do. "You're defending him because he's giving you a job too," Tommy shot back. Walter stood, voice firm. "I'm defending him because 25 years ago I gave a kid my last $20. That kid became the man funding this workshop. Andrew's doing the same on a bigger scale. That's paying it forward, not selling out. Easy for you to say, you're getting paid too. Yes, and I'll use that money to help people here, get them into the program." Walter looked at Tommy. "Including you, if you're interested." Tommy looked away, jaw tight. Andrew's phone buzzed. Sterling, about equipment specifications. The fact that he had a working phone, someone texting about business. It felt wrong. "I should go," Andrew said quietly. "Yeah," Tommy said. "You should." Andrew walked away, felt their eyes on his back. 2 blocks away, he stopped, leaned against a building, hands shaking. Phone buzzed again. Sterling, work to do, decisions to make. Andrew took a deep breath, texted back. Then he kept walking toward his new life. Behind him, the underpass felt further than 10 blocks. 3 days passed. Andrew threw himself into work, met with contractors, reviewed equipment catalogs, sketched curriculum outlines, stayed busy so he wouldn't think about the underpass, about the faces, about Tommy's words. But Walter hadn't called, hadn't come by the workshop. Andrew had texted twice. No response. Thursday morning, Andrew couldn't take it anymore. He drove to the underpass at 6. Walter's tent was empty. Not just empty, cleared out. All his things gone. Andrew's stomach dropped. He walked to Tommy. "Where's Walter?" Tommy barely looked at him. "Gone." "Gone where?" "Don't know. Left yesterday morning, took everything." Andrew felt panic rising. "Did he say anything?" "Said he needed to think. That's it." Tommy walked away. Andrew asked everyone. Linda hadn't seen him. Sam didn't know. Maria just shook her head sadly. He spent the day searching. Shelters, the library, the places Walter used to go. Nothing. That night, Andrew lay on his apartment floor, unable to sleep. Walter was 70 years old, 15 years on the streets. Where would he go? Then he remembered. Something Walter had said once, about the park, the school where he taught. 8 blocks from the underpass. Friday morning at dawn, Andrew went there. The park was small, playground equipment, benches, empty this early. Walter sat on a bench facing the old school building across the street. Red brick, 3 stories, windows dark. Andrew walked over slowly, sat down beside him, said nothing. They sat in silence for 5 minutes. 10. Finally, Walter spoke. "I taught there for 23 years, room 304, 3rd floor corner window. I could see this park from my desk." Andrew waited. "Used to eat lunch here sometimes, when the weather was nice. Sarah would pack me sandwiches. We'd been married 30 years. She knew exactly how I liked them. Turkey, mustard, no mayo, lettuce, but no tomato." Walter's voice was steady but distant. "She died in April. Spring, everything blooming. Seemed wrong somehow, like the world should have been gray." He paused. "I started drinking in May. By June, I couldn't teach straight. By August, they fired me. I don't blame them. I was a mess." Andrew had never heard this much detail. Walter usually kept things surface level. "Lost the house that winter. I came back here, to this bench. Sat here 3 days straight, trying to decide if I wanted to keep going." "What made you decide to keep going?" "Didn't really decide. Just kept waking up, one day after another. Eventually, I stopped coming here. Too painful. Went to the underpass instead. 15 years ago now." Walter turned to look at Andrew for the first time. His eyes were red, tired. "I'm not angry at you for succeeding, Andrew. I want you to understand that." "Then why did you leave?" "Because I'm angry at myself for failing." Walter's voice cracked. "I had 23 years to make a difference. A classroom full of kids every single year, hundreds of students. And what did I do with it? I taught them about Shakespeare and Hemingway, important stuff, but I didn't change any lives. Not really. Not the way I could have. You changed Sterling's life, 25 years ago. One kid, one night. Pure accident." Walter shook his head. "You know what kills me? That was the only time I actually helped someone in a way that mattered. Not in my 23 years of teaching, not in my 15 years on the streets. Just that one random night. One kid." Andrew started to speak, but Walter held up his hand. "Let me finish. I've been thinking about this for 3 days straight. Really thinking. And I finally understand what's been eating at me." He turned to face Andrew directly. "When Sterling showed up, when he told that story, I felt something I hadn't felt in 15 years. I felt like maybe my life had meant something. Like maybe that one moment justified everything else. All the failure, all the waste." Walter's hands were shaking now. "But then I watched you. Watched you make a real choice. Take a real risk. Build something that could help hundreds of people. Thousands, maybe. And I realized something. You were doing what I should have done 30 years ago. What I could have done. If I'd been braver, if I'd cared more about impact than comfort." "Walter, no, listen, because this is important." Walter's voice was firm now, sharp. 3 days ago at the underpass, I watched you stand there while everyone attacked you. And you know what you did? You hesitated. When Tommy told you to prove yourself by sleeping in your tent, you hesitated. I had to think. You hesitated because part of you wanted to say yes. Part of you wanted to crawl back into that tent and stay there where it's safe. Where nobody expects anything, where failure is already built in. The words hit hard. And I recognize that hesitation, Walter continued, because I've been living in that hesitation for 15 years, choosing comfort over impact, choosing safety over risk, telling myself I was being loyal to the community when really I was just being scared. Andrew's throat was tight. What are you saying? I'm saying I love you like a son, and because I love you, I'm going to tell you the truth. Walter's eyes were fierce now, intense. If you don't take this opportunity, if you don't commit fully to this workshop, you're not being loyal to us. You're being selfish. You're choosing 50 people who make you feel safe over 5,000 people who need you. Andrew felt like he'd been punched. Tommy was right about one thing, Walter said. You don't belong at the underpass anymore. Not because you're better than us, but because you have a different calling now, and trying to live in both worlds means you'll fail at both. But what about you? What about everyone there? What about us? Walter's voice was sharp. You think we're so fragile we can't survive without you? We survived before you showed up. We'll survive after you leave. But those 5,000 people who could learn a trade, get real jobs, change their lives, they won't survive without what you're building. Andrew's eyes burned. He blinked hard. I came here to this bench to remember who I used to be, Walter said quietly. To remember what I could have been, and I decided something. I'm 70 years old. I can't get those years back, but I can stop you from making the same mistake. He stood up slowly, stiff, old. You've been waiting for my permission, for me to tell you it's okay to move forward, so here it is, move forward. Build something that matters. Don't look back, and don't you dare feel guilty about it. Walter started walking away. Where are you going? Andrew called after him. Walter turned back, smiled for the first time. Back to the underpass to pack my stuff. Sterling said I start Monday, right? Chief Community Advisor. I need an apartment too, and I need to start recruiting people for your first class. Our first class, Andrew said. No. Walter shook his head. Yours. I'm just the bridge. You're the builder. Don't forget that. He walked away slowly, left Andrew sitting on the bench alone. Andrew looked at the old school building, at the park, at the place where Walter had once been someone different. His phone buzzed. Sterling. The equipment order was ready for final approval. Needed Andrew's signature today. Andrew stood up, took a deep breath, texted back. On my way. Then he walked toward the workshop, toward his future, without looking back. 6 weeks later, the carpentry section was complete. Andrew stood in the middle of it. Workbenches lined the walls, table saws, band saws, drill presses, hand tools on pegboards, everything he'd chosen. The space smelled like fresh wood and possibility. Sterling walked in with his legal team, 3 lawyers in expensive suits, briefcases and tablets, ready for final contract signing. Impressive, Sterling said. You built something real. Andrew had learned something in 6 weeks. Sterling respected directness. So he said it straight. We need to talk before I sign. Sterling nodded to his lawyers. They stepped back. Talk. I need guarantees, real ones, not words you can interpret later. What guarantees? Decision-making power. The contract says I have equal authority on carpentry and trainee welfare. But what does that mean? Who decides when we disagree? That's what the board is for. You control the board. You own 70%. If we disagree, you win. That's not equal. One of the lawyers stepped forward. Mr. Davis, that's standard corporate structure. Andrew cut him off. I don't care about standard. I care about what's right for the people we're helping. Sterling held up his hand, silenced the lawyer. Keep talking. I want veto power, real veto power, on anything affecting trainees, how we teach them, what we require. If something doesn't serve them, I kill it. No board vote, no override. The lawyers looked uncomfortable. Sterling was quiet. That's significant control. Yes, I could hire someone more flexible. You could, but you won't get the same results. Andrew held his ground. You said you needed someone who couldn't be bought. Someone who'd tell you truth. This is truth. If you want me to do this right, I need power to protect these people, even from you. Sterling smiled slightly. Even from me. Especially you. You're good, but you're rich. Been rich long. You don't remember what it's like, what they need, what they fear. And you do. I lived it 3 years. I won't let anyone, including you, turn this into something that looks good but fails. Sterling walked to a workbench, ran his hand along the wood. What else? Community Advisory Board, minimum 5 people, All current or former homeless. Real power. They can veto policies affecting trainees, and they get paid. $15,000 yearly each. The lead lawyer spoke. That's $75,000 overhead. I can do math. Sterling interrupted. He looked at Andrew. What else? Profit sharing. When trainees pay back, 10% goes into a fund, controlled by the advisory board. They decide how to use it. Not you, not me, them. You're asking me to give away control. I'm asking you to trust the people we're helping. If we don't trust them with money, how can we trust them with anything? Sterling was quiet for a long time. The lawyers shifted. One checked his watch. Finally, Sterling spoke. My father told me when I started my first company, never give away control. Control everything or lose everything. He looked at Andrew. He was wrong. I built 3 companies ignoring his advice. I found people smarter than me in specific areas. Gave them real power. It scared me every time, and every time it worked. He turned to his lawyers. Add everything he said. Veto power for Andrew on trainee issues. Advisory board with veto authority. Profit-sharing fund controlled by the board. Make it legally binding. No loopholes. The lawyers looked pained. Mr. Sterling, that's irregular. Do it. And draft his compensation up to $80,000 starting salary. Annual reviews tied to program outcomes, not profit. Andrew blinked. I didn't ask for more money. I know, that's why you're getting it. You asked for power to protect people, not money to enrich yourself. That tells me everything. Sterling extended his hand. Deal? Andrew shook it. Deal. But one more thing. There's always one more thing. The first class. I recruit them from the underpass. From people who know me, who don't trust this yet. How many? 20 people, 4-month intensive. If 15 graduate and get jobs, we expand. If not, we rethink. Fair. When start? Monday, with Walter. The lawyer spent an hour drafting amendments. Andrew read every word, asked questions, made them clarify. They looked annoyed. Sterling looked amused. Finally, Andrew signed. His hand shook slightly. His signature on a document worth millions. Sterling signed next, shook Andrew's hand again. Don't make me regret this power. Don't make me regret taking it. Sterling laughed. The door opened. A small figure slipped in. Ethan, 10 years old, wide eyes. Dad, you said I could see it. Sterling's face softened. Come here. Ethan walked over slowly, looked at the equipment, then at Andrew. Recognition dawned. You're the man, from that night. Andrew knelt to his level. That's right. And you're the kid who remembered. When you can, help someone else. Ethan said it carefully. Exactly. Is this place for that? For helping people? Andrew looked around. Yes, this place is for that. Ethan smiled. Can I help too? Sterling put his hand on his son's shoulder. When you're older. But I want to help now. Andrew thought. You know what would help? If you came sometimes, talked to students, reminded them someone believed in them. That kindness matters. Think you could do that? Ethan nodded seriously. I can do that. Then you're part of the team. Ethan shook Andrew's hand. Formal, copying his father. But his smile was pure kid. As Sterling led Ethan out, the boy turned. Mr. Andrew? Yeah? Thank you for saving me. Thank you for giving me a reason to. The door closed. Andrew stood alone in the workshop. Tomorrow, he'd start recruiting. Start the real work. Start proving this could work. But tonight, in this moment, standing in the space he'd built with his vision and Sterling's trust, Andrew felt something he hadn't felt in years. Not hope. Bigger than hope, purpose. 18 months later, Second Chance Workshop opened its doors. Walter cut the ribbon. Chief Community Advisor, salary, benefits, small office. He cried. The first class had 20 people, 12 from the underpass, 8 from elsewhere. Tommy enrolled in electrical training, got certified. Now he teaches beginners. Sterling showed up opening day, stood in back, quiet. When a reporter asked if he was proud, he said, I'm grateful. Someone gave me $20 in one sentence 25 years ago. Look what it became. Ethan, now 12, volunteered Saturdays, helped serve lunch, listened to stories, learning what money couldn't teach. The model worked. Year 2, 2 more locations. Year 3, 5 total. Not all run by Andrew and Sterling, by graduates, people who'd been through it. Walter told Andrew once, you didn't save 50 people. You saved 5,000, because those 50 went out and saved more. Andrew still visited the underpass weekly. Some people had moved on. New faces replaced old ones. But now there was a path out, a real one. Maria graduated 3rd class, got plumbing certification, union job. She sent Andrew a photo of her first apartment, real apartment, her own key. The text said, "I was wrong. You didn't abandon us. You built us a ladder. Underscore, 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 underscore." Andrew faced a choice many of us avoid: comfort or impact, staying small where he was safe or growing where he was needed. Walter saw through it, called it fear disguised as loyalty. What's your underpass? Where are you staying because it's comfortable, calling it loyalty when it's fear? Sometimes the people we're helping need us to leave, to grow, to help more people, then come back stronger. The best way to honor those who helped you? Help more people than they could. When will you make that choice? What's holding you back? Let me know what you think.